On today's Locked On Texans podcast, former Carolina Panther running back Jonathan Stewart joins the show to discuss Bryce Young and the running back position. It's going to be fun. Stick around for today's pod.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this Friday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to our first-time listeners. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube as well. And to our returning listeners, thank you for lending your ear for another pod as we continue to talk Texans. I'm your football analyst here for the Locked On Texans podcast, Jonathan Sports Guy Hickman. And, of course, joining me as always is your Texans credential media member, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL in all lowercase for a first-time deposit match up to $100. The Texans to continue splitting running back reps. Bobby Slug had an opportunity to talk about that, so we'll dive into that before we close off today's show. We're going to open up with improvements from C.J. Stroud because Jonathan Stewart, the former Carolina Panther running back, is joining the show later in the second segment. Before we talk about the improvements from C.J. Stroud, I did want to let you guys know this. Bobby Slug is very excited about the play he's been seeing from Jared Patterson. He explained that they ask a lot from their center position, and he likes the way Patterson has played, describing him as awesome. And so we look at whenever Juice Scruggs get a chance, an opportunity to come back, how is that going to play into the offensive line mix? And I think for the longest, a lot of us has been speculating whenever he has an opportunity to step on the field again, left guard will probably be the best position for him, and you can move Titus Howard over to right tackle. Also, do not expect Robert Woods to play on Sunday. He did not practice on Thursday after not practicing on Wednesday, so he is likely not playing on Sunday. And Sheldon Rankins did return back to practice this week, and so you're looking at a team that really wants to limit the Carolina Panthers on the ground. Getting Sheldon Rankins back is very important. Now, as we transition to C.J. Stroud, Cody, I'm going to give it to you. C.J. Stroud on 10 or more yards this season is 43 of 79, so over 50% for 977 yards, 5 TDs, only 1 interception, and a passer rating of 114.8. CJ has been phenomenal for this Houston Texans offense, and so we look at the improvements, Cody. What can he actually improve on as a rookie quarterback?
Yeah, this is actually something that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, especially considering how well he has started his career. First and foremost, John, I don't think there is not too many quarterbacks in history who can say that they already have a spot in the Pro Football Hall of Fame within their rookie season. And Stroud did it in 5 games because – for those of you guys who don't know, the Pro Football Hall of Fame did induct C.J. Stroud's game ball against the Atlanta Falcons. There's a lot of hype surrounding C.J., especially considering going into Sunday's game against the Carolina Panthers. He'd be going up against Bryce Young, who, unfortunately, whether it's due to his own transgressions or due to the transgressions that's going on with the organization, Bryce Young has not had a great start to his pro career. However, I started to think, what can CJ Stroud get better at for the final 11 games of the season? And John, I didn't want to go back and look at film or anything like that. I just decided to ask the man myself.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to improve on. A lot personally, a lot as a team, a lot as offense, defense, special teams. Offensively, we want to get better in the red zone and third down. Get better at that all around, and even sometimes even working on being better on third down is not getting to that, and just finishing drives in the red zone. So that's definitely at the forefront, and me personally, just being better with my eyes and keep my eyes down the field, not looking at the rush, and getting through my progressions better, things like that. So all things that can be fixed, which is a good thing. And like you said, just want to keep that momentum rolling and keep that swagger that we're playing with. So those are some things that we want to keep as well.
There's two things I want to point out really quick in terms of the answer that C.J. Stroud gave me when I asked him individually, when you do some self-evaluation, what are some of the things in your game you would like to see yourself improve? And I love how before he got to himself, he put the team first, especially emphasizing how the Houston Texans need to improve on third down efficiency. As of right now, the Houston Texans, 6 games into the season, have converted on third down 44% of the time. John, that is an improvement for where this team was last year, where they was hovering somewhere around 30 to 35%. However, what C.J. Stroud said coincides with what Coach DeMeco Ryan said, what Nico Collins said, and what offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick said. So I love how when you are talking to the players and members of the coaching staff separately, they all point to the same thing they all want to improve on as a team, and that's third down efficiency. But secondly, and I found this very, very fascinating, how CJ wants to evolve and get better at going through his progression. Look, I know it's because we've been watching Davis Mills over the last 2 seasons, followed by Kyle Allen and Jeff Driscoll, and for a short amount of time, it was Tyrod Taylor. But I thought, without a shadow of a doubt, C.J. Stroud has done really well at going through his reads and his progressions this early, so soon as in his career. I found it very fascinating that is at the top of the board is something that he wants to continue improving on throughout the 11 games of the season. Look, I understand it. CJ Stroud is not perfect, but I love how something, at least in my eyes, something where I say, man, CJ Stroud has done a phenomenal job as a rookie. I love how he has taken it and say, you know what, I could be better.
Yeah, and you know what? When I look at the Houston Texans offensively, this is a number and stat that I'm pretty sure a lot of people wouldn't believe me if they didn't have access to Google, because you can Google this. The Texans in the red zone, in terms of TD scores, so just strictly TDs, the Texans in the red zone this year is worse than what they were last year. Last year, in the red zone, the Houston Texans scored TDs on 47% of the opportunities compared to this year, 38, which places Houston 27th overall. I think that's a good area to improve on. Whenever you get down there, let's try to leave with 7s instead of 3s, because how many field goals did they kick in that Atlanta Falcon game? And if those field goals turns into touchdowns, you're looking at a different ball game. You're looking at the Houston Texans coming into the bye week sitting at 4-3 and probably have that 7th wild card spot. So I think that's the best, probably in my opinion, the best area to improve on right now. Just when you get down in the red zone, you want to come away with big money and not little chips. So everything else for CJ, honestly, in terms of improvement, he's a rookie, and I think that for some of the Texans fans and some of the people that evaluated CJ coming out, he may have exceeded expectations. For some of us, he's at a position where he is meeting those expectations. And for some of us that watched him in college and went through the pro days and everything, he may have not touched his peak yet as a rookie quarterback. So I think for CJ Stroud right now, there's not much that I can say to young man. I want to see him just really get better at, continue to be consistent, continue to work on, as he has, not making those same mistakes twice. And when you get inside that 20, come away with 7 instead of 3. And I think the perfect game to point back to is the Atlanta Falcon game. He finally scored that 7, but the amount of 3s that allowed the Atlanta Falcons to stay in the game really hurt Houston in the end. Houston put some more touchdowns on the board. We're looking at a different offense. We're looking at a different quarterback, and I think the the Rookie of the Year offensively race we're gonna be wrapped up.
I think it's already wrapped up, if we're being 100% honest.
Boom, CJ. Before we get an opportunity to have a good conversation with Jonathan Stewart former Panthers running back. I definitely want to let you guys in on a little secret, and that is how good Jace Medical is, who now offers customizable just for you Jace cases with dozens of add-on medications. Jace is continually working to expand their medication offerings, and you choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. Jace Case provides five life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jace Case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, you need to jump on a quick call with one of the board-certified physicians. Go to jacemedical.com and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code locked on, LOCKEDON, at JASE medical.com. And I definitely need to let you in on another secret with FanDuel. You can snap into the NFL action right now with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You know we like to be number one here in America. So, #1 sports book, missing you if you're not locked in. And if you're not, let me tell you something. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, think no more. There's no better time to get in on the action. This app is super easy to use, it's simple, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season today. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL.
I don't honestly and personally watching the film and watching every game of his, I don't think he in any way, aspect, or form he's playing bad. That's what people think if you're not winning or you have a turnover here and there. Bryce is playing some really good football. So I just don't think people watch in depth. Like if you're a quarterback, So I think he's playing really well. Of course, it's always things you can clean up. I can clean up a lot of things, and I'm not here to be his coach or be that or be that. I'm here just to support. So we texted a couple weeks ago, just checking in on each other, and it was nothing about football. That's not our relationship. So. But personally, I think he's playing good, and I think he'll continue to be great in his game because he has that swagger and that mentality and that type of playing style. So,
welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Friday installment of Locked On Texans. And as promised, I have with me former Pro Bowl running back, 10 years with the Carolina Panthers, 1 with the New York Giants, Mr. Jonathan Stewart, who is now the host of Believe in the Panthers. Jonathan, what's going on, man? And welcome to Locked On Texans.
Oh, man, thanks for the intro. I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing well, man. Excited to get things going. And I'm pretty sure you are excited for this upcoming game between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. As you know, the Panthers, they have their own rookie quarterback who was drafted #1 overall in Bryce Young. Jonathan, let's jump right into it. What have you seen out of Bryce Young through these first 6 games of the season? Because the one thing I found interested, as you guys heard C.J. Stroud say, when you look at the film, Bryce isn't playing bad. It's just the narrative that starts to surround you when your play doesn't result in wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said by him, because that's exactly what has transpired for this year. Whenever you have a #1 draft pick, everyone follows, just to see how he's gonna, do for the season. And right now, what we're watching is, Bryce, undertake, things that is not really under his control, such as injuries, such as, certain, play calling limitations or whatever you want to call them, just because of the fact that you have guys, that are second string, third string, that, are now playing in this game. And they might not be equipped, and not that they're not, made for the job. It's just, this is a brand new team that we're looking at, brand new coaching staff, new players, new concepts to follow. So there's, guys that have to grasp, certain play calling and understand the flow of what's being asked of them. It's a bit of a learning curve. The Texans have experienced the same type of injury bug, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think maybe it's just the fact that they have depth, at certain positions that fit the actual scheme in which they're running over there. There's a lot of elements that play into a team doing well. Injuries and chemistry. You have chemistry. Um, you can make things happen that are very special. You see that on a lot of teams where, look at the Travis Kelsey and the uh, McComb, what was his name? Mahomes. Mahomes, and we're seeing that same type of chemistry with Bryce Young and Adam Thielen. And so
Mm-hmm.
that there's ability there. That we're in striking distance, as far as being complete in a lot of areas. But there's also a lot of areas that we need work. And you're not going to get that overnight. And I think being 0-6, having the injury bug that we've been plagued with, you you hope that when guys get back and get back healthy, you start to see us actually hitting the strike, and and meeting the mark. And so I think it's something that a lot of fans for the Carolina Panthers don't want to experience or accept, but going into this offseason, this past offseason, you were supposed to hit the reset button. And
Mm-hmm.
what's been happening is there's been a lot of frustration under the old head coach, Matt Rule, and that seemed to transfer onto Coach Frank Wright. A lot of people aren't capable of being in delayed gratification mode. And as a athlete and as a player, you understand that that's exactly what this whole football thing is. It's not overnight. There's a lot of good things that happen, but there's also things that scream we're not there yet. And so right now you have to have the willpower, the energy, the mindset, to go to work even when it's not easy. Just show your effort. This is not a struggle by any means. This is who has the most effort, who has the best approach, who has the right mindset, um, who's going to be a dog at the end of the day. And looking at this game coming up, the Houston Texans, it's a setup game for you guys. You guys are 3-3, capable of controlling your destiny for this season, could possibly make the playoffs. And I say this is a true setup game. We played a setup game against the Miami Dolphins, but I'll say the Miami Dolphins are a little bit more experienced and probably a little bit more healthier, as a team. So they were supposed to probably win that game. But this game, for us, Panthers got to look at this as, hey, look, the world's going to be watching. You got number one and you got number two. Who's going to be the winner out of that? And you got to find some deeper meaning sometimes to these games that you're playing. It can't just be for a paycheck. It's got to be for, your locker mate and his family. It's got to be for Bryce Young, being in the spotlight. Let's give this man a dub. Like, I'm tired of people saying this about him, putting it all on him. When in the locker room, it's not all on him. It's a team game, and there's a lot of things that aren't going in your way, but you're either going to make an excuse or you're going to accept the challenge. And so accept the challenge. That should be the mindset. And I'm pretty sure that is the mindset. I mean, we have the Ring of Honor ceremony that's about to take place this weekend for the Texans game. So Musa Muhammad and Julius Peppers will be recipients of that. And I mean, if you're, playing for the Panthers, if you're a young guy, and you need some motivation, That's motivation right there. You got two Panther greats, two NFL legends, um, taking the throne, and you want to make sure that that's a special night. So come out with a win.
Hmm. Jonathan, when you take a look at Bryce Young 6 games into the season, what has been some of his intangibles, some of the qualities about his game that has stood out to you the most?
His anticipation, where the ball's going, and where he places the ball, it's pretty spectacular to watch. I mean, you can say the same thing about C.J. Stroud. I mean, these quarterbacks, you're seeing things um, that you saw in college, and they're year one being able to replicate these things, not just once or twice, consistently, which is huge. Um, so when you're anticipating, throws, that means exactly what the defense is running. That means you've been watching film. That means players, their tendencies, and your receiver. You know who you're throwing the ball to. So there's a lot of things and a lot of elements that go into placing the ball where it's supposed to be, and to have that trust, at this level and so fast. That's one of the things that excites me, going forward, because you see the progressions that he's been taking, week in and week out. You know, one week it's hey, this is a defense that you know he's going to try to bait you, okay, and so the next week he learned his lesson, and it's just progression time and time again where you see a guy learn. um a lot of guys make mistakes and they don't learn from them, and I think that's something great within your quarterback position, him being a leader, being able to take ownership of the things that he's been doing, will pave the way for other guys to accept the same type of responsibilities. Um, chemistry in that locker room is very important, and leadership and trust go a long way.
Mm. Jonathan Stewart, former Pro Bowl running back for the Carolina Panthers. Jonathan, I know we have talked a lot about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, and rightfully so. That's going to be a game where everybody's just going to look at CJ versus Bryce, Bryce versus CJ. But as a former Pro Bowl running back for the Panthers, I want to ask you this question because down here in the city of Houston, we have a second-year running back in Dameon Pierce. Had a phenomenal rookie campaign. Almost would have rushed for over 1,000 had he not gotten hurt with a season-ending foot injury towards the end of last season. However, this year it seems like that he has been on some type of sophomore slump. He has not looked the same, and the first 6 games of the season, it's been bad for Dameon Pierce. For someone who has experienced success in this league at that position, what is the key to a running back to actually sustain long-term success like you have as an 11-year pro?
There's gonna be bad games. You're gonna have several bad games. I've had several bad games. I've had several years of bad years. Um, the key is to not let that get into your head. The key is to remain focused on your craft and continue to develop and get better. And understand when you have injuries, you might not necessarily be exactly the same. Like, I'm gonna get deep on you right quick, but like, you look at a river and you cross that river one day, it's not gonna be the same when you cross it the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything changes. And so you take injuries to that measure, you're not going to be and operate the same. And that's okay. Because at the end of the day, it could be something that you might be operating better now, right? So you add guys that get injured and they come back, they're getting their head. I gotta prove this, I gotta prove that. Might be trying to do too much, right? Try to bounce things too much, try to make big plays. Take the things that are there. And a lot of times taking the things that are there is understanding what's in front of you. To my understanding, the offensive line might not be that great right now because you have a lot of them injured. And so for the people that are saying that he's having a bad season and he's having a slump, let's give this man some credit here. He's running behind a banged up offensive line. The depth right there is not A1. And so he's playing behind a group of guys that are capable, but they weren't the line that was designated at the beginning of the season, So so you got to take those types of things into account. And as for him as a running back, controlling his own destiny, take what's there. Understand, watch film, and just understand that sometimes it's going to be tough sledding. And you just got to make do. Because once you start running where the offensive line knows you're going to be, then that's when they can gain confidence, right? They can gain confidence in knowing that, okay, he was right there. So maybe if I can, reach this guy a little bit further, maybe it'll spring him free, So there's a lot of things that, go hand in hand with confidence, man. Especially for a young team and guys that don't typically start, all of a sudden playing this starting role. Not a lot of guys, rise to the occasion just off the rip. So you got to give these guys some time. And I think Dameon Pierce, I love the way he ran last year. He was one of my many times I had him up there as one of the top 10 running backs throughout the season and how he was performing. All you got to do, man, is just, stay level-headed, keep the grind, don't fold, and just stay prayed up, man, because a lot of people, especially this day and age, social media, they're going to talk bad about you no matter what. So you might as well just turn the social media off and just stay at work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a dream. You got the game at your hands, right? So, like, this is a dream job for a lot of people. And you're very blessed to be able to play it. And so, take that and run with it.
Jonathan Stewart, former Pro Bowl running back for the Carolina Panthers, and he is now the host of Believe in the Panthers. Jonathan, really quick, where can our listeners follow you at on all your social media platforms? And be sure to tell them where they can find Believe in the Panthers.
You can find Believe in Panthers anywhere. On your iPhone, on your Samsung, whatever broke phone you got, because definitely probably broke, because y'all ain't taking care of y'all phones. Y'all dropping them on the floor. Y'all taking care of your kids. They throwing them all over the place, putting them in pools. But no matter what, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, all the major platforms. And you can catch me on Instagram at Jonathan Stewart without the T on the end of Stewart 1. And that's on Instagram and Twitter. And then you can catch the Believe in Panthers as well on Instagram and Twitter. Just type us in and you'll find us. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a good rating. And if you're a Panthers fan, hang in there. It's going to be okay.
That was Jonathan Stewart, former Panther great. And man, that was a great conversation Cody had an opportunity to have with Jonathan Stewart. A lot of gems dropped, but I also want to drop a gem on you guys. And that gem is PrizePicks, the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is really one of the most fun games I play right now. And honestly, I get an opportunity every time I play to win 25 times the money I bet this football season. I'm just, testing my skills. I talk to you guys all the time about how Devin Singletary can get over the hump for the Houston Texans offense running game and how C.J. Stroud can go out there and continue to break some of those rookie records with his passing yards and what he's been able to do. My favorite has really been Nico Collins. I can go on PrizePicks, pick the more than or less than on each of those players, and I put my name in the hat to win up to 25 times my money on those more than less than stat projections. Go to PrizePicks.com, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That's right. PrizePicks.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And right now, let's move away from football. Lately, my wife and I, who is about to give birth to our child, she just hasn't been in the mood to drive. And I get it. She's carrying our child. And sometimes I'm not in the mood to drive whenever she's hungry or wants something to snack on late night. So you know what I do to myself? I go right to my phone. I go to the DoorDash app. I look up whatever she wants, her ice cream, her chicken tenders, whatever it is. And, of course, I give me something on the side as well. But I go on DoorDash and I place that order. And right now you can get up to 50% off on a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. When you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCKED23, that's LOCKED 23. So if you're like me, and if you don't feel like wasting gas, and if you don't feel like moving, and if the game is on, and if the wife is in the bed, and if you don't like going nowhere, but you still want to snack on something, go to your phone, download the DoorDash app, and use code LOCKED23 to get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Welcome back, Locked On Texans fans and listeners out there. Before we close off today's show, I think, Cody, it's important that we reiterate that this is an opportunity for the Texans backfield to kind of go crazy, have a big game. The highest on the season so far, I think, has been 120. I think this is an opportunity for Houston to meet that number, match it, and then add on to it as well. So to rush for more than 120 in this game. But early in the week, I called for this to be a big Dameon Pierce game. According to Bobby Slowick, the Houston Texans are going to continue to split reps, which is something that Cody talked about and hinted at early in the week as well. Coach Bobby, what's up?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. The nice thing about bye weeks is you really get a chance to self-evaluate. You know, you constantly do it as a year goes on, week to week, but it's the first time you really get to just remove yourself from any opponent or game plan process for a couple days and hone in on, okay, where are we at right now, really in the run in the pass game? What are things we know we have to fix? What are things we do really well that we got to continue doing? And I think that process helps in particular for us in the run game where we've been growing every week and we want to keep growing every week, along with just having a group up front with continuity. You know, that's obviously that's a big deal, being able to have the same guys up front every week. And then our backs just getting an understanding of the scheme and the system and what we're trying to get done and managing the loads of all those guys. You know, we really believe in a running back by committee. We really want to make sure everybody touches the ball, but we want guys to be fast, fresh, every time they touch it. And I think last game against New Orleans was probably the best we did in that regard as far as making sure that we had a share in the load right there.
Really quick, listening to Bobby Slowick is like a combination of D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio. Like, he's talking football, but for some reason it's kind of like, do you even believe what you say? I don't know. Like, his tone is just his tone is very Nick Caserio, but what he's saying is very D'Amico Ryans. And which is a perfect combination so far for the Houston Texans offense.
Yeah, and first and foremost, shout out to Jonathan Stewart once again, man. The gem that he dropped on that last question that I asked about how can a running back sustain success in the NFL, man, I love what he had to say. But John, it goes hand in hand into what we've been talking about in terms of the struggles that Dameon Pierce has been going through so far in his sophomore season. And John, look, I would love to see Dameon Pierce have a breakout game. But just like I said early on in the week, I'm not too sure he's going to have the opportunity to do so, especially considering how great the rushing attack looked against the New Orleans Saints. And we know the Saints have a pretty great front four, front seven.
Yeah, they was until they hit it into the game, they're one of the best rush defenses in the league.
Exactly. And when you take a look at their defense as a whole heading into that game, I believe they had at the time the fourth best defense. And the fact that the Texans were able to find a formula in their run game to lead them to a victory against the New Orleans Saints, going up against the Carolina Panthers, man. I think, as Bobby Sloyd alluded to, they're going to continue to be a running back group by committee.
Yeah. I'm also looking forward to Tank Dell coming back this Sunday. Just missed him out on the field. So
he's an electrifying player. As a matter of fact, we talked to him, I believe it was Monday.
It gets the people going.
And he said, which I didn't notice, when you go through a concussion protocol, the league has it where you really can't do anything but just sit in a quiet, empty room. He said he couldn't even watch TV. And I hope I don't never go on the concussion protocol because I got to have some type of noise or something going on.
Well, that's why we're on the sidelines. Thank y'all for listening to this latest episode of the Locked On Texan podcast. Do us a favor. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment if you have not. And again, for all of you guys returning for another episode of Talk Texans on this Friday, thank y'all for coming back. Make sure you follow us on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, at Locked On Texans, and give me a follow on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. We will have a new addition to the Locked On Texans family next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, next week is going to be different, to say the least. But
it's going to be a remix.
It's definitely going to be a remix, all right? But we definitely going to make sure that we continue to provide great coverage for you guys. But just know, things about to get real. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.